syndrome, imposterism, imposteristic thoughts, or that weird phenomenon that makes people feel incredibly ill at ease at work, at clubs, sometimes at home. So it happens to everybody. That is the good news. My name is Marjorie Burkle. I am an executive coach and organizational development. I can put this on video. Oh. Organizational development consultant. I do just want to stop so I can put this on video, and something on here it does not want to. Eric, can you change me to video or not?
Okay, I'm not sure what we mean by that, but you mean just on your PowerPoint?
There we go. I have a face. Okay, we'll go back to screen share. Sorry about that. Yeah, you were listening to an icon, which is really crazy. Okay, let's get back to imposter syndrome. Awesome. So just a quick introduction to Sage and Summit Consulting. We have a strange philosophy, and that is that although the accumulation and generation of knowledge is a really great thing, and it helps a lot of people, it absolutely has no power. Knowledge only becomes powerful when you can put it into action. And for that to happen, it has to transfer from head to hands to heart. So in all our work that we do, which is working with leaders, new and existing, climbing and progressing leaders, their teams, and supporting the organizational structures to be able to excel at their jobs. Now, we work with new leaders quite often, and we find that somebody who has recently stepped into a leadership role has three emotional things happening almost at the same time, but they can only deal with them one at a time. And the one is imposter syndrome. It's like, why am I here? Somebody's going to knock on my door with a clipboard and say, okay, fine, we found you out, you're a fraud, and we're kicking you out of the office right away. The other one is mourning for their previous position because they were really good at it, and they were stars, and they were always right, and they really knew what they were doing every single day. And the third one is just a feeling of complete loss and overwhelm. There is so much to know, so much to learn, so much to do that you don't know where to touch and what to leave. So what we're dealing with today is imposterism, and it's a really interesting one. So we're going to just talk about three things because we only have an hour. We're going to talk about what is it? Let's put the detective out there and find out what is this thing really? And then how to stop it. And then the counterintuitive one, which is where I really would like everybody's input as we get there, is, face it and ride it and see what you can do with it, because it's a different energy. So there are definitely opportunities in it. So first of all, what is imposter syndrome? Now, the best way to describe it is to tell you a few stories. The first one, and it's probably the one closest to me, is a story of a good friend of mine. She's an incredibly accomplished financial advisor, and she was ready to start her speaking career. She has a wealth of experience. She's an exceptional entertainer on the stage. I've heard her speak. She's one of those people that can make money sound interesting. And to be able to do that, you need to be exceptional. And so she's like, I'm going to take the show on the road. I have a story to tell. I have things that people need to know. And she does. And then she surprised me. It was like, well, before I start that, I am going to get a speaking coach, and I'm going to go on a professional speaking course. And I was like, whoa, what's that? And this is like I'm sitting here in front of a dear friend and I'm hearing something that I hear every single new leader doing. It's like, I'm not ready. Not me, not now, and maybe not ever, because I can spin my wheels and do professional development until the cows come home before I actually step out and take the show on the road. And I've heard this in CEOs, first-time supervisors, entrepreneurs, professionals, physicians, lawyers, male, female, and there's no age barrier or defined age for this. I've heard it in people in their 20s as much as I've heard it in people in their 50s and 60s. So it's a great equalizer. It happens everywhere. Here's another story. A recent coachee. Coachee is a coaching client. Seasoned professional engineer. He was exceptional in his job. And as it does with all exceptional professionals, they promote you into a leadership role. And normally without training, it's like, well done, superstar. You're going to leadership role. We crown you with leadership. And in that role, he lived in fear and trepidation every single day because he looked around him and it's like, I think everybody's out to get me. They're going to prove that I don't know what I'm doing because I really don't know what I'm doing. And somebody, every time I make a mistake, somebody is going to laugh at me. And he was just so uncomfortable with the whole thing that it started attacking his health. And he ended up in my office. We dealt with it. Another new CEO, another superstar, promoted from director to VP, and eventually, after having been groomed for the role of CEO for 5 years, she stepped into the CEO role. It's like, I can't do this. The board is going to call me out for being a fraud. They're going to find out that I don't know what I'm doing. And the whole experience was just paralyzing. So we have, I don't know how many people we have here right now. So fire away in chat. How many times in your life can you remember having that feeling of, they're going to find out I'm a fraud. They're going to find out I don't know what I'm doing. Eric, you're the narrator of that
Yes,
box. Please.
I will.
See it. Thank you.
I'll start with my own.
Good. All right. Fire away.
Well, mine's a small number of big ones, but I'm sure there's probably hundreds of times when you think about it.
Okay, Tom, you're vehemently nodding, and hi and welcome. I haven't seen you for a while.
Yeah, I know. Thanks for the invite to this. No, I was just thinking. I was writing in the chat. I wasn't quite sure how to put this, but I feel like sometimes the insecurity is from. A lot of times it's because you don't know something, but I find with myself that is not necessarily the case. It's not because of a limitation of knowledge, or it's not because something's understood, but it's because maybe your role with these people has changed. I'm just thinking, like, when I deal with small clients, I have no issues. Even though the process is the same with a large client, sometimes when I deal with them, I'm like, man, like this is really frightening. How do I deal with dealing with this different type of person? And it's not because of a lack of knowledge. I feel like it's a status thing or something like that. But yeah, it just depends on who I'm dealing with, but it's something that comes up quite a bit for sure.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. What else did you see in the chat box, Eric?
Every time I start a new position. Sounds fair.
Fair enough. Anything else?
That's all we have.
All we have for now. Good. Well, let's move on. Awesome. So all these people that get these feelings of, I'm in the wrong place at the wrong time and I really don't belong here, are seasoned professionals in their fields. And they know that they are smart and capable. But then on the other hand, they don't know that. They don't know how smart and capable they are. Because the mantra that you hear is, I don't even know why they appointed me. They must have run out of candidates. And you can hear the weight of what they're experiencing because it's a little bit debilitating. It's like, I am here, but I don't know what I'm doing. It's scary. It can freeze people, send them right into their sympathetic nervous system, and they're getting the whole fight, flight, freeze thing going there. And it takes a toll on resilience. It takes a toll on your emotional capacity. It takes a toll sometimes on your capacity to leave your office or pick up the phone. So naturally, this does not happen 24/7. And it comes in waves. So imposterism or imposter syndrome is widespread. It touches everybody, which is a good thing to know. Maya Angelou, after having written 11 books and winning several awards, said, I cannot escape the feeling that I haven't earned any of these accomplishments. I am not deserving of them. Einstein described himself as an involuntary swindler. There is, however, a situation in which people can feel like imposters that we have to take out of this conversation because it doesn't belong here. And it was a situation that was highlighted in a recent Harvard Business Review, and we have to just note it and know that this is not imposter syndrome. The article was actually called "Stop Calling Women that they suffer from imposter syndrome." Now, imposter syndrome is gender, age, all of that neutral. It happens to everybody. But they talk about a story about Alyssa Lavery. She was exhausted. She was in charge of a large corporate event management with a high profile speakers. And in the specific one, that was the catalyst for everything, Barack Obama was going to be the speaker. She's accomplished, she knew what she was doing, but the office politics was against her. And I'm going to read from the article just because it was information that came to me this morning and I felt it had to be brought here. A golden opportunity to prove her expertise had turned into a living nightmare for Lavery. Her colleagues interrogated and censured her at every turn, calling her professionalism into question. Their bullying, both subtle and overt, haunted each decision that she made, and she wondered whether her race had something to do with it, the way she was being treated. She was, after all, the only Black woman on the team. She began doubting whether she was qualified for the job, despite constant praise from the client. She lost confidence and she actually stepped out of that position eventually. And yeah, that was her story. So when your feelings of inadequacy is generated by a constant barrage of interrogation, microaggressions, or overt bullying from your surroundings, it's got nothing to do with the imposter syndrome. You're actually being bullied. And that's a different conversation, completely different conversation. So what we're talking about here is the relationship between you and what's going on inside your head. So let's dig a little bit deeper with those binoculars on fast forward. And what is this thing about? Why do highly accomplished people feel like they don't belong where they are? So two psychologists, Chance and Emez, studied the phenomenon of unwarranted sense of insecurity in two different settings. The good news about what they found is it's not a disease, even though we call it a syndrome. It's not an abnormality. And it is definitely not tied to depression. It's not tied to anxiety, and it's not tied to self-esteem. And it being not tied to self-esteem is very important because a lot of people will tell you, oh, you suffer from imposter syndrome because you have low self-esteem, just grow some. and get some more confidence, start believing in yourself. It's not what it is. Highly confident people have moments of imposter syndrome. So it's not a disease, it's not abnormal, and it's not tied to depression, anxiety, or self-esteem. That's a good news. It is, however, tied to two psychological phenomena, neither of which are abnormal. It's just something that happens. And if you know what it is and when it happens, you can do something about it. So it's perceived inadequacy and pluralistic ignorance. Really fancy and fun words to play with. What it simply means is there's a cycle of perceived inadequacy that a lot of smart people suffer from. And the reason is that highly skilled people and highly accomplished people believe that everybody is highly skilled and highly accomplished, and that they are not deserving. And how that would go, it moves into perceived inadequacy. It's like, I know what I'm doing and I'm really good at it. And then you look at all the people around you and it's like, they are so skilled and so accomplished in themselves. Look how wonderful that person is in public speaking. Look how wonderful that person is in influencing others, analyzing data and making it really simple for other people. And then by focusing on how wonderful they are and what they are, and you kind of put yourself a little bit smaller, and it's like, they're better than me. I don't belong here. I don't know what I'm doing. And that way, you talk yourself right off the podium, out of the hallway, and back into the crowd. You've just cut yourself off by the knees. It's really quite horrible. So we could become hyper-focused on what we believe other people do well. And your inside voice is churning around and around on things blowing other people up instead of focusing on yourself, because you're the one that's about to stand on stage. You're the one that's about to go and speak to a client. You're the one that's going to publish the paper, get the new qualification, and get the new job. And perceived inadequacy can sometimes in leadership also be mistaken for humility, which is another buzzword. Now, everybody has to have humility, and it's true. Humility is the new shining object in leadership. But putting yourself down and putting other people up in the construct of perceived inadequacy is not humility. That is just self-bashing and self-flagellation in a very bad way. So where are we? We create this cognitive distortion, and it exaggerates a situation in our minds which got very little to do with reality. And the only thing that really happens is that you come up short. The other phenomenon in imposterism is pluralistic ignorance. Now, this is a fun one. You can play with children in this one. It's where people walk around and you're in a crowd and it's like doubting yourself for a moment. It's like, I cannot speak to that person because they have a higher title than me. I shouldn't be here because these are really smart people. I don't know what to say. I am in this situation and I have to make small talk and I can't make small talk. I'm in a situation and I'm not sure how to behave because these are really fancy people. So, and you stand there in this room. For me, it's like, has anybody ever been to a synergy networking session? Hands up if you have been. Synergy is one of the most intimidating networking sessions there are. I'm always grateful for the dim lights and the free wine, because Dutch courage sometimes helps a bit. Because it's just like, oh my goodness. these people are very accomplished business owners, and I don't know what to say to them. Of course, I know what to say with them. A lot of them are my clients. And you walk into that hall, it's like, I'm the only one that is doubting myself. That is pluralistic ignorance. As soon as you start speaking to somebody else, you will realize that they're also doubting themselves and wondering what they're doing here, because it's one of the most pressurized and intimidating settings that you can find in Edmonton. So walking around in the world, thinking that you're the only person that doubts yourself is wrong. When you go into a crowd, you can be 100% sure that everybody is doubting themselves. If not at that particular moment, definitely in the next 10 minutes. It's a normal thing. We spin thoughts in our heads like, I'm not good enough, I'm not the right person for this and that. So, doubts, assumptions, maladjusted beliefs that we nurture in our heads are numbing. They weigh us down. They stop us in our tracks. And they stop us from sharing our brilliance. They stop us from sharing the great things that we are here to share with other people. They stop us from applying for jobs, writing that white paper, engaging in the PhD, going for bigger roles, or just going on LinkedIn Live and sharing some really great insights that the world deserves to hear. So I have two questions for you. Both of these, pluralistic ignorance and perceived inadequacy, is it objective or a subjective process? Fire away in the chat box. What are we hearing here? Objective, subjective, what's happening?
Subjective scores 1. I'll add a second one. The same.
Okay, but subjective.
Subjective 2. Oh,
3.
3.
Okay, preaching to the choir here. Yes, it's subjective. It is something that you create in your head. Most professionals, however, pride themselves on objectivity. They have tremendous skill sets in analyzing markets, analyzing data, analyzing engineering drawings, analyzing policy. It's a very cerebral and objective skill set that they are very proficient in. Yet, they succumb to a subjective process that gives them a halt. Cannot do this, shouldn't do this, shouldn't be here. So if imposter syndrome is simply a subjective thought process, it's not really an actual reflection of reality. What is it doing in your head? So we're gonna find how to stop it. How do we stop the syndrome? Now for everybody, what is your favorite or your most recognizable imposter syndrome mantra? What's a story that flies through your head when imposter syndrome pops up? Type it into chat box.
What if I'm not ready or prepared?
Okay.
And I misunderstood, so I put a wrong answer maybe. There's also, if I have doubts Would I come across as believable?
Ooh, yeah,
That's a good one.
that's a good.
What if I say something stupid?
Okay, my psychological twin is here. What if it?
What if someone else knows more? Yeah. Not the expert, yes. Yeah,
Great,
covers it, yeah.
awesome. So we're going to make two suggestions here. The one is to stop it. The other one is to write it. So imposterism is a construct of your mind. It's a story that you're telling yourself. And therefore, mindfulness is very useful. Now, I know mindfulness, and I've heard a whole lot of eye rolls here. Mindfulness is a buzzword these days. Everybody has to be mindful. And it's very fashionable, and you kind of meditate and observe your thoughts and all those good things. And it's pretty much a cure for everything that ails everybody. And unfortunately, that's true. And it's not because it's pop psychology, it's actually been scientifically proven. But you don't have to meditate a whole hour every day. You actually don't have to meditate even for 20 minutes a day. You just have to stop. Think. It's like, interesting thought. So pay attention to what is in front of you and what is the reality of your experience. What is real right now in the present moment? Present moment, you're sitting, spending your lunchtime with me, and I'm talking your ear off. That is what's really happening here right now. And I have cool pictures on my slides. And when you stop and watch what is happening in front of you, and you do it with less judgment, just, oh, I just met so-and-so, a fairly famous leader in corporate world of Canada. That is really interesting. And then before you start getting that slight panic, it's like, oh my goodness, I don't know what to say, and I don't know what to, and I'm scared I'm going to say something stupid in front of this really brilliant person. Question yourself. Am I really in the wrong place at the wrong time? Or I'm just feeling like an imposter right now? Just pay attention to your thoughts. And the fun thing about paying attention to your thoughts in the current moment, on the fly, is that you're stepping from the sympathetic nervous system back into the parasympathetic by being analytical. As soon as you stop, it's like, oh, this is what's in front of me. This is where I am right now. The fear factor leaves because you are being analytical. That particular young engineer that was promoted into a leadership role where he thought everybody was looking for him to do something stupid because he didn't know what he was doing. He had an interesting way to switch from being panicky about something into being analytical. And it was a true engineering thing. He was counting in, Eric, what are those numbers that is like 1357, 137, whatever?
Prime.
He was counting in
numbers.
prime numbers and trying to get past 100, because I can't even get past 10. And halfway to 100, he was so calm. And because he's just doing something completely analytical. So stop. When that thought comes up, I shouldn't do this. I shouldn't just launch my speaking career. I don't know what I'm doing as a new leader. I'm in this board meeting and they're going to call me out for being a fraud. Just stop and focus on the here and now, on the present, otherwise known as the present moment, which is another buzzword, but it is a thing. And notice, why are you accusing yourself of being an imposter in that particular moment? And then maybe dive into, most of the people in this room are thinking they're imposters in this moment. Most of the people have self-doubt here because this is a tough room. And just that thought process will calm you down and give you the courage to bring forth your brilliant ideas, to bring forth your amazing conversations, to step up and speak in public. So stop, think, check the facts, check where you are, have a reality check. And that itself will give you the courage to go forward. And then there's a time to surf it. Now, this is a brilliant story. It's a TED talk from Mike Cannon-Brookes. And it reminds us that, imposter syndrome is sometimes a real thing, because sometimes you really are an imposter. You're just not. Wait, you opened your mouth, you volunteered for something because you can't say no, or you bravely took a giant leap. And it's like, no, these are different people. It's a different country. It's a different place, different city. It's a different, I'm an imposter and I'm sticking out like a sore thumb here. So this is what happened to him. Mike Cannon-Brookes and his friend Scott started Atlassian. It's a great cloud-based software that's hugely integral to what makes the world go round at the moment. And throughout his career building this business, the both of them felt like imposters. He tells a story which is really giggle-worthy. It's like the phone rang in the early days and somebody asked for accounts payable. And then he put it's like, Scott, your accounts payable, but I don't know whether they want to send or they want to get, will you deal with it? And so imposter syndrome is very native to him. Recently, his kid found a tweet from Tesla that said that they can solve Australia's rolling power problems with a singular battery. Without thinking, it was 10:30 at night, Cannon-Brookes tweeted back challenging Tesla. It's like, for real, blah, blah, blah. And that's the pebble that started the avalanche. And before he knew it, he was eyeball deep in talking batteries. At the time, he didn't know the material difference between a AAA battery, a car battery, and an industrial battery. They're batteries. But he had a conversation with Elon himself, and Elon said, we can do this. And he had to, was like, well, here I am. I cannot back out now. An innocent tweet landed me in this storm, talking stuff I know nothing about. And all he could do is to swim. He was in that wave, surfing. Novice, but the adrenaline kept him surfing and above water because he had to learn very fast. If the wave does this, I have to do that. If this happens, then I have to do that. That's the difference between a AAA, AA car battery and industrial battery. This is what watts and all the other things that electricity and power talks about means in real terms, so he could have an intelligent conversation. And then he had to start negotiating with the prime minister. It was like, oh, so he had an audience with the prime minister of Australia. So all of a sudden he's power breaking between with the big powers and doing stuff that he really did not set out to do. He was a real imposter. But pushing through learning everything that he needed to learn. He solved the problem. Australia now has the big battery, and the power problem has been solved. He remembers very clearly saying to himself, pardon the French here, S-H-I-T, I've started something here and I can't really get out. If I abandon the situation, I'm going to sort of set back renewables for Australia forever. And maybe I'll just look like a complete idiot because of my idiocy on Twitter. He pushed through, he pulled through, he learned what he needed to learn in the moment, and it worked out well. So I want to leave you here with his words. I'm often out of my depth, and it's okay to be out of your depth, as long as you don't freeze. Harness the situation and don't be paralyzed, and try to turn it into something for the force of good. Now everybody will say, yeah, but that's him. It's like, he's an ordinary person. He was that student that left university that didn't want a real job because he didn't want to wear a suit. And now it worked out well for him. There's a lot of people like that. And every single one of us has a gift that we need to give the world. Do not let thinking like an imposter or thinking you are an imposter stand in your way. So, departing thoughts here is step away from all pop psychology to conquer imposter syndrome. It may or might not be the real thing. Just be aware of where you are right now, mindful, and do a reality check. If your workplace is circumstantially making you feel like this, it's driving thoughts of isolation and not belonging. We need to fix the workplace, not you. It's bias and it's bullying and it's a different conversation. If that thought is self-inflicted, check the facts, check where you are. Have a reality check. So I'm standing here, I'm doing this. These are the people around me. Go analytical on yourself. Take the fear factor out. And then remember, what's that? Implied inadequacy. And no, I've forgotten the other word. Perceived inadequacy. And oh my goodness, pluralistic ignorance. They're two big words. Thank you, Eric. Implied. It's a situational thing. It lives in your head. And if it lives in your head, it's yours to deal with. And sometimes you will really be an imposter. You will be in a place where you don't belong. Social media allows us a lot of those opportunities, anywhere and everywhere. And everybody has opinions. And some of these opinions are going to open up doors for you. So if you're a real imposter anywhere, count your blessings. See it as an opportunity. Pull on every strength you've ever had, ride the wave, and go for it. That is all we have on imposter syndrome today. Are there any questions?
So just a question from me, Margaret. So pluralistic ignorance, if you're in the networking thing, is that the most common scenario? I understand that one. That's a good way to put it. Is there another example you'd have where that would come into play?
In the workplace, in the boardroom. Everybody in the boardroom is thinking that you're the only person that is scared to voice an opinion or challenge a point. In this room right now.
Yeah.
Like,
anytime you're in a group, I guess it's a
Yeah.
potential.
so there's a question here. What if someone else knows more? I would possibly put it to you, like, there's always somebody who knows more. And there's always situations where you are the person who knows more. And there's some people that know differently. And it doesn't mean more. But then going back to that spot where you challenge that thought, and it's like, I am here, I am in this situation, these are the people around me. And you become calm and regain some ground in confidence. You can become curious and be curious about, what does that person know that you don't know? And why do they know what things that you don't know? And then it's a learning opportunity. It's an opportunity of growth. Any other questions? Well, in that case, I've just added 20 minutes, 18 minutes to your calendar. I am going to let you go. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we will see you soon again.
Thank you.